Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And today we're going to be doing my top 10 board games of 2021 so far. So today is the 1st of July, and we've had 6 months of new releases that have hit our SideGame library shelves. Things have come in, things have gone out, and this is the time where I'm going to share my thoughts of the initial 10 games so far from this year that I've really been impressed with and I've really been enjoying. So one caveat really quickly though is these have to be 2021 board games. So they have to be released this year or delivered on Kickstarter this year. So one of those two things has happened. So maybe a new to me games list might come in the future. And if that's something you're interested in, please let me know. I'd love to share all these awesome new games that I've been playing. So let's get started. My number 10 is going to be Agropolis. So Agropolis is a very quick cooperative and solo board game where by Button Shy, 18 cards, and these cards are fantastic. You're going to be having these 4 different patterns on each card, and your goal is to match them up in specific ways so you're satisfying a scoring criteria. So what that looks like is here you have all these different cards, and the scoring criteria actually on the back of each card. So out of the 18, you're going to have 3 random ones. So that means that it's going to be a different game and a different puzzle each time that you attempt this challenge. So super fun, super well done, and my favorite part of this game is actually the very weird and intricate scoring potential. So this is actually the sequel to a game called Sprawlopolis, and in Sprawlopolis the objectives are pretty straightforward. Hey, make sure that this color's next to this, you use the roads here. This one does something a little different by utilizing the animals on the cards, and I think that's really fun. So for example, that top one there is Wine Cellar. You get extra stuff for the vineyards you're going through. That one's kind of a basic one, but you might have something that has to do with the amount of animal pens, and as you can see, there's multiple pens inside of a specific farm area. So it's kind of awesome. I really enjoy that unique scoring, but this is a great little solo game that you can bring with you. It also makes for a very casual cooperative game that I think is great. So this is one of my favorites from the Button Shy line, and I like it a lot. So that's my number 10, Agropolis. My number 9 is Solomon Kane. So Solomon Kane is this epic story adventure that is played by storybooks. So you're going to have this big storybook, you open it up, and it is all based off of the Solomon Kane source material. So the writing is amazing, fantastic, and the gameplay is so simple, straightforward, and fun, and really helps with the cooperation as a whole. So I think this system is really great. It has you playing as virtues that are guiding Solomon Kane's actions. So it's your job you'll roll some dice at the start of your turn, you'll allocate them to these action spots on your board, and that will allow you to manipulate Solomon on the board. And I think that's super cool. It's a super interesting way to deal with a scenario like this where everybody is helping a single character. And that character has this big stat board on the side here, and each area of the campaign that you're going to be going to is going to provide different things. So I really enjoy this. It's one that I've had a lot of fun with, and the branching paths and the narratives are so cool. So when you first start the game, we've played about 4 scenarios now, and we've played scenarios multiple times actually, because based on your choices, even on that first decision, you're going to have a completely different story and different play out of the story. So really cool. I really enjoy that. My favorite part of this game has to be the cooperation and how the dice help with that. So on your turn, you roll 3 dice and you have choices. You can use them to activate your cards. So you have those cards that have those slots that require specific symbols, or you can reserve them for another turn, and you have some spots at the top of your board here for that, or you can actually give them to other players. And I think it's super important, super cool. It's going to cause cooperation and talking and saying, hey, can you give me this die so I can do this? And another cool thing on top of that is actually you can actually determine the player order at the start of every round as opposed to it's always stagnant. I think that's really awesome. So you can always be like, who should start this one? Why do you start this one? Why could that be helpful? It's really awesome. So I'm not going to do any spoilers, but this game is great. I love the story. I love the writing, and this is a fun one to read and have a great time with. So that's my number 9, Solomon Kane. My number 8 is Biblios, Quill, and Parchment. I'm quite impressed with this game. If you don't know, Biblios is one of my favorite filler games ever. I think it's so amazing. It's lightning in a bottle, an incredible design by Steve Finn, and this is actually pretty dang awesome as well. So Biblios, Quill, and Parchment is very similar. It has 2 eras. You're going to roll your dice simultaneously during the first era, and you'll be using those to collect symbols and to gain influence points. And then during the second area, you don't roll the dice, you put them in the center, and you'll be actually bidding for the sets of dice that have already been rolled. And so that's really fascinating, where the prayer points you've gathered in the first part are now your currency in the second part. So very similar to Biblios, you have money in that second phase that you're buying dice with, and each dice have bonus actions. And I think this is just such a sweet, cute little design. It's awesome because it is that roll and write. It has simultaneous play, so there's even less downtime here. This is a great one. So I really enjoy this one. Let's kind of show you what the board looks like. So you have two different boards. You have your personal board where you're going to be tracking your income, and then your prayer points that you've gathered, and then you have this public board that's going to track your progress on the cathedral, as well as the points that the different altars are on. So I really like the re-rolling mechanic in this game. The first thing that you got to do is you'll roll all your dice during that initial phase, and you have a decision. You can either re-roll all of them, you can pick one of the dice to re-roll, or you can keep it if you really like it. So I like that decision right off the bat, how it does give you customization and push your luck feel, so you can kind of focus on specific aspects. It is great, and I think it's a wonderful rendition of Biblios. Not quite as good as the original, in my opinion, but I think it's a great design, and I'm excited to try all of the new objective cards that are going to kind of change the way that these middle dice sections score, or activate, I should say. So excited to try those, but I've really been enjoying my time with Biblios Quill and Parchment, my number 7. My number 6 is going to be Chronicles of Drunagor, Age of Darkness. So this game is a sweeping dungeon crawler with multiple missions that you're going to be going through with your large cast of characters that are all very different and unique, and is ran by this wonderful cube action system. So to do an action, you place a cube somewhere, and I'll just go ahead and show you the board here. So this is what it looks like. When you use an action, you put the cube in the slot, and it's got to be the correct cube, and each of them represents something different. Yellow is melee, red is range, green is agility, and then blue is magic. So you're having to use cubes appropriately. Now, in addition to your skills of your character, you also have these skills based on the initiative order you are, and this kind of gives you the role of the party. As you can see here, she's the striker, and so she has character abilities that are unique to her, and I think that's amazing. It offers you so much customization in not only the level up process, but also just by playing the game. And the characters are fun, colorful, and unique. Maya here, she has a bunch of different summons that she can use. It is a blast, and there are so many fun things to do. If you look at the board here, we've got big alternate character sheets if you want to use those. We've got all sorts of tokens. The game itself is actually on this 3D terrain, which I've been having a lot of fun with, and I really enjoy the exploration mechanic, and the characters are just fun to use. The action system is fun, and it's a blast to play. This is one I've been enjoying a lot. This is Chronicles of Drunagor, my number 7. My number 6 is Shadow Kingdoms of Valeria. So Shadow Kingdoms of Valeria has you playing as the bad guys in the Valeria Kingdoms. So your whole goal is to gather a bunch of warbands and go on these, essentially these combats. So you're going to go fighting in these homelands, and you're doing your best to use your warbands successfully to upgrade yourself, as well as earn reputation and points, ultimately, glory for yourself. So the way you're doing this is by drafting dice. So you'll have a worker that you'll send to different places, and each of these places you go to is going to provide you dice that support the action of the location you're at. So if you take it from the Dragon's Hoard, you're going to gain some money. If you buy cards, you're going to get a discount on the cards. If you reserve something, you're going to reduce the amount of cost you pay for that. So however, the discount you get is going to mean that the dice that you're taking is weaker. So there's a cool trade-off on that. It's very quick to play, and my favorite part of this whole entire game has to be the boards itself. So if you look at this goblin here, you've got all these circles that are uncovered. So when you start the game, your board is completely covered with circles, and I think that's super cool because right off the bat, your first objective you complete, you take off a single disc and you put it onto this warband area on the right here. And right off the bat, you're going to have customization on how you want to play your game. Do you want to make greens wild? Do you want to increase the number of cards you have? Do you want to give yourself additional action spots, extra strength, the ability to carry more gems? It's up to you how you want to play this. So I really enjoy that, and the cards I think are a blast as well. They're very similar with that customization aspect. You have instant abilities, you have continuous effects, and then endgame scoring, and I really enjoy how these are going to cycle. So I really like this whole system. It's very clean. It's a great game. And that's my number 6, Shadow Kingdoms of Valeria. My number 5 is going to be the game Burgle Brothers 2, The Casino Capers. So this is one that I'm super impressed with. It is a great sequel to the original Burgle Brothers, which is a great game on its own. It's a good cooperative game. You'll be moving around. You'll be interacting with these different tiles as you try to take on a heist, and your whole goal is to break into 3 different bank safes and get the goods from there and then get out. So the reason that I enjoy this one so much is the way it has evolved the system. So first off, they've reduced the amount of levels in the game from 3 to 2. So But in order to make up for this, they have created a cinematic experience. So there is a finale card that is drawn as soon as you break into the safe. So there's only one safe on these 2 floors, so you're trying to find the codes for that safe. So you crack into the safe, and all of a sudden you find out what's inside the safe, and you'll see something that adds something neat or interesting to the game. As you can see, there's a little car token there. So this is probably you found a car in the safe, and you can only imagine what will happen after that. So there's lots of really neat and fun things that can happen here. And I think those end scenario cards is definitely got to be my favorite part of this. But it's very clean in its design. There's less things to prep. The gameplay is smooth as always. There's a lot less misconceptions and a lot more streamlinedness of the system as a whole. I really like this one. And it has a great campaign that you can follow that increases or decreases the difficulty based on how you're doing. It's a blast. I strongly recommend Agropolis 2 if you're looking for a great cooperative, small little puzzle game. This is great. Really thematic, really fun, awesome time. That's Agropolis 2, my number 5. My number 4 is Zombicide 2nd Edition. I'm blown away by how much I actually enjoy this game. So Zombicide is a hack and slash zombie apocalypse game where you are taking a group of 6 survivors and you're going from mission to mission trying to survive and complete your objectives. So very straightforward in its theming. This is set in the current era. So this is in Washington, D.C., I believe is where this is happening. So you're trying to do your best to survive and gather resources in the form of weapons to fend off these unrelenting zombie hordes. So some great things with this. My favorite part of this has to be the all-out mechanic. So there's a lot of amazing things that have happened in Zombicide 2nd Edition. So I'll talk about those first. So first thing is they have streamlined this game to the point where it is so easy to get this thing played, and while you're playing it, it's basically always your turn. It is so good. So the first thing they did was with the map setup, everything is on the board already, essentially, so that takes away a lot of the setup time because it's there already. You don't actually have to worry about it. I love that they use just the big square tiles, so boom, 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 you're ready to go. And the other thing that they've done to streamline the game is they've changed the way the zombie cards work. So when it's your turn, when you're done with all your survivors, you draw zombie cards, and each spawn points gets one. But the way they've done it is they've condensed the zombie cards to only a single type, so you're always only drawing from one pool. It's very easy to just grab them, put them down, move them, and super easy to resolve everything. And it actually is a huge difference. Like, we notice it every time we play. We're like, this is so good. I'm so impressed with the small, subtle changes they've done to the design, and the all-out mechanic is amazing. So all-out mechanic is actually from the Washington ZC campaign expansion, and that's what we're playing through right now, and it's amazing. It's so fun. You have your weapon deck is actually switched out with a new deck that has these little locks on it and a new red number, and the red number gives you additional attack dice every time you attack. However, if you decide to go all out, it's your choice. If you roll a 1 on one of those all-out dice, your weapon breaks. And that can be devastating when you're going in with like a big old gun that you've been using all game, and it breaks, and all of a sudden you have nothing. What are you going to do? So it gives you cool things to prepare for. It makes for awesome and scary moments, and it increases the tension and the fun of the game as a whole. I especially like the all-out mechanic with the survivors that specifically use the all-out mechanic. It really encourages you to make those scary plays because you're getting those bonus benefits, right? Like, if I go all out, I get to take a free action, but I could break my weapon. So it's so cool. I love it. Great game. I should probably show you some of the game, right? So these are the dashboards. They are amazing as usual. They've really improved these since Black Plague. This is where you're going to be putting your characters, and you're going to have the different items around. The cards, the art is amazing on these cards. The variety of abominations is super good. You also have the board themselves. Like I was saying, they're just those squares. So very easy to set up, but this is one that I'm really enjoying. Great game. Zombicide 2nd Edition, my number 4. My number 3 is Bullet Heart. Bullet Heart is a bullet hell style board game where you're going to have all of these incoming bullets coming down, and your job is to organize your board in a way that these pattern cards are going to be able to clear these bullets before they eventually get to the bottom and hit you for damage. So this is either a head-to-head, a solo, or a cooperative game, and it excels in all 3 of those categories. And it's a crazy real-time puzzle experience that has its own soundtrack to boot. This is incredible. I strongly recommend this game. I was so taken by surprise by how good it is. It's one that I've sunk a lot of time in because it's that good. Now, my favorite part of this game has to be the asymmetrical characters. So each character here has their own way they play. So Ling Ling Zhao here, her whole thing is she is going to add the numbers of the cards that you use, of the bullets that you're using to complete her patterns. So you use these pattern cards, and if you have things in a specific order, then you satisfy that condition. So Ling Ling actually doesn't care about the color, she cares about the numbers mainly and where they're positioned. And then you add them up, and that actually tells you what you're actually going to be clearing. So each character is different. This character here, I don't remember her name, but her whole thing is she doesn't actually clear stuff, she pushes them. And if she pushes them off the board, they're gone. And on top of that, not only do the characters have asymmetry on their heroine side, but when they become the villains, they are also asymmetrical. So this gives you 8 characters that are all unique, and when you flip them to the reverse side, you get more characters that you're going to be fighting against. So much variety, so many different ways to play this game, and they're already producing more content for this. Bullet Orange is going to be out soon, and I cannot wait for those new characters. This is going to be great. I love this game. I'm just excited to play more of it. So that's Bullet, my number 3. My number 2 is a game that I've been playing a lot of recently. This is Oath, Chronicles of Empire and Exile, the newest game by Letter Games and one of their best. This is a fantastic game where it is living. You have a kingdom where the Chancellor is ruling, and all of these exiles are plotting and scheming on how they're going to take the throne, whether that be by straight up fulfilling the current Oathkeeper's quest and taking the Chancellor's spot, by discovering some type of vision that's going to lead them to a new path of victory, or joining the Chancellor's team, helping them, but being conniving and stabbing them in the back when they can. So there's lots of cool ideas at play going on here, and that is supported by this incredible artwork. So this game is absolutely drop dead gorgeous. I love every single bit about it. The components are incredible. The theme is amazing. The gameplay is smooth and great. It uses this action point system that I find incredible. But my favorite part about this game are the cards themselves. So every turn you have options where you can do a search action, and that means that you're going to be looking through the deck or the discard piles, and you can pick up cards, and these cards are super fascinating. So this is what they look like here. You have some choices whenever you draw a card. You can either keep it in your hand. You have a hand size of 3, so you can keep it for yourself and keep it secret. Nobody can see it. You can flip it face up, and those cards are your personal advisors. They're only effects that you get, so super cool, special for you. Or you can actually play it to the sides like you see here. So the Tribunal can hold 2 cards, so we have Book Burning and the Wizard School there. And so where you play it determines the power of it. So if you keep it secret, no one knows what it is. You can surprise people with it. If you flip it face up, not only do you get the effect, but you also get the symbols, which will help you with gaining money and secrets as you play, so really cool. Or you can actually play it to the location to support that economy of whatever that character is. So if I put this wizard down, I actually get $1 or so a favor from the wizard faction. And that becomes a new action space that you can use while you're there, or if you control it. And I think this is such a good system. Some cards have these little trees, which means you have to play them on the side. Some have little people, which means you have to keep them. And some have chains, which means that they're stuck with you forever if you play them. So you better think carefully if you're going to commit to using that. I love the dynamicness of this. I love the use of the different suits and symbols. I love the closed economy that results from this. And I love the crazy actions of the game. And the coolest part are these cards actually change every game you play. So if you're the one who wins the game, whatever advisors you're using, those cards you've played, you populate the deck with more of that type of card. And then the loser's advisors and the cards in the discard pile, they get shuffled up and they're removed from the game. 6 of those. That is so cool. You have a constantly evolving deck. A card that you hated might be gone forever now. It is such a cool system, and it's a game that I'm enjoying so much. I just want to play this all the time. It's incredible. You know, my wife is actually getting a little annoyed because we play this so much, and she's had victory in her hands so many times that she's basically written out the chronicle after she's finished. But for some reason, somebody will steal it from her on like that last turn, and it's not a good time for her. So she's having some frustration, and that's another amazing thing are the records here. So you actually are going to write the history of your chronicle, and people are doing it in a lot of different ways. Ours is a lot more text-based, but the art that people are using to express themselves is a lot of fun. So having a great time with this, and I love this game. I think it's so well done. The art, everything about it. What a blast. Oath, my number 2. And there's one that's higher than this. Oh my gosh. My number 1 game so far from 2021 is Sleeping Gods. Sleeping Gods is by far the best storytelling open world game I've ever played. So when I started playing these big sprawling adventure games, I started off with Seventh Continent, which kind of promised this idea where you're going off onto an adventure. The world's your oyster, but a lot of times it became grindy and just not very fun. There would be points where it was boring. It was more work than it was fun, and I didn't like that at all. So we actually got rid of Seventh Continent from the side game library. But wow, this game it's ideal. This game is ideal when it comes to that. So the game is structured as you're a crew of the Manticore, and as the crew of the Manticore, you have this book in front of you that you're going to be using to traverse the different areas around. I think what's it called? I forget what it's called, but you have this fantasy land that you are in, and every turn you have a small little bit of worker placement at the top here where you're going to get an action. Generally, it's going to be getting resources of some sort, maybe healing, maybe cooking for somebody, and then an event will happen. Generally, they're pretty easy at the beginning, but get harder as you progress. And then you have two main actions, and that's interacting with the story. Whoever's the captain is going to actually pick these things, and where you go is totally up to you. The world's your oyster. The options are endless, and you can choose how you proceed. The big thing that you're going to be chasing are these objectives, and they're done by little tags. So a card might say, if you have skeletons, then you can do this thing. So you're trying to interact with people to gather kind of these keywords in order to unlock more things. But it's done in such a natural, elegant way. And the best part is these keywords are simply just one word, and you can stack them. They're on cards, so you can really see what you need. And a lot of the times, you can write notes on the map. And there's actually a map for this game that basically gives you the entire layout of it's the Wandering Sea. That's what it's called, the Wandering Sea. And so you can actually write down notes on the Wandering Sea map and kind of track and make plans as what you're going to do. In addition, this game has a story book that's just laden with these awesome choices and decisions. And a lot of the times, you're going to have to make decisions that they could be optimal, or they could be morally gray, or they could be just terrible things that you're doing. But ultimately, your goal is to get your people here back to the real world and find a way out of this wandering sea by gathering totems. And sometimes that's going to make a lot of other people angry or upset. So this is incredible to me. I think it's amazing. The artwork in this game as a whole is incredible. The resources are so fun. The action system is great. And another thing I'm really enjoying is the combat mechanism. So combat is so interesting in this game. In combat, you're actually going to have these large cards with grids on them. So no big spoilers here. The Mythins are in that first attack, the first combat that you fight during the prologue, so not a big deal. But these Mythins, if you look, they have these grid of combats. And so when you actually deal damage, you'll be pasting the tokens onto spaces. So you can either hit their hearts, which are their health. If you get rid of all those, you win. You kill that character. But if you cover up the other things, if they have, for example, adjacent Mythin attack +2, if you cover that, that effect is no longer applicable. You also can cover up these red spots. That's how much retaliation they're going to deal to you. Or you can cover up these spots with these little diamonds. Those diamonds are going to trigger cooperation tokens. So each character has their own little token, and every time you deal damage, you'll put that token onto those little diamonds. You'll put the token on somebody else, and you can use it for bonuses. So there's lots of things to think about during combat. It's tense, it's hard, and you will lose sometimes because these characters are just so strong, these enemies, because you're probably not going to kill them all in one hit, so they're going to be retaliating for those big hits of damage. So I think that is a blast. I love the idea of the characters all working together to do this. The cards that you get, that's another thing that's amazing about this game. Let's look at these cards here. So the cards themselves, in Sleeping Gods, you're going to be having this giant treasure trove of cards that looks like this. And you have quest cards and adventure cards. And generally, the quests are going to be those keywords. Adventure cards are going to be items or people or things that you find along the way. And you start the game with 3 cards, I believe, something like that, super small amounts. You have like a pot that you can cook in. You've got a charm that's going to let you do some rerolls. And then you also have a companion that's going to help you draw ability cards. So those are your 3 options, and they look like this. So you have the card here. Now these cards, you'll have those 3 at the start, but you are going to consistently get new cards. So you might start the game with 3, but you're going to end the game with like 80 or something insane. But you're going to know what every single one of those cards does. You're going to know what those cards do for you, why they're important, when you should use them, because you're going to learn them as they come out. It's the progressive earning of action spaces, essentially. You get so familiar with this, with your crew, with your gear, with your equipment, with your situation, that it becomes second nature. And it's done in a short time frame. This game is only 3 chapters long, essentially. And each chapter is 12 events, something like that. And after that 3rd chapter, the game's over. You're resolving the finale and seeing what happened, how your journey progressed. So incredible open world, amazing artwork, amazing story. This has a soundtrack. I could gush about this game for a really long time. This is one that I'm so excited to just jump right back into. I played about 4 campaigns of it already, and I really can't get enough. It's so fun. It's so good. And the best part is I've played so many times already in these campaigns. I've not seen the same thing twice. That's insane. This world is huge. Ryan Lockett has created an entire thing that I just love diving into, and I'm having a lot of fun with. So that is Sleeping Gods, my number 1 from 2021 so far. Amazing game. So that is my list. Those are the top 10 board games that I'm excited for from 2020. I'm excited for. Those are the top 10 board games that from 2021 so far. Those are my impressions and my opinions on everything. So I'd love to hear what you think about the games that I picked. What are your favorite board games from 2021 so far that were published this year? I'd love to hear all your suggestions. What games should I be trying? What games do I need to give a go? What games missed the list that you're like, Mackenzie, I thought you covered this one. Why is this not here? I'd love to hear what you think. So please let me know down in the comments below. I really appreciate all the support. Thank you so much for watching, and thanks for your opinions and your comments and your criticism. Everything is super helpful, and I really appreciate it. Thanks so much. SideGame Strong.